moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking Moistly. My mouse is kind of, sort of responsive, mostly responsive. The YouTube video wasn't listening, but it's okay now. With me, as usual, is Greg. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Mark. I'm responsive. I'm here. I'm
One-
caffeinated. I'm ready to speak moistly.
Wonderful. I thought you were frozen there, and I was like, oh, man. Oh, well, what are you going to do, right? Yeah,
We'll make it through.
Hey?
We'll make it through. We got to find a way.
We'll try. We'll muddle through. Speaking of muddling through, have you been paying attention to Line 5? Do you know what Line 5 means to Ontario? Have you heard about this?
So I don't know nearly enough because this sounds like a really big deal and like a lot of consequences if this ends up being shut down by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I thought it was.
But I don't know a terrible amount about it, though. No.
Yeah, well, okay. So the National Post is saying looming shutdown as Michigan governor, and that's Governor Whitmer, orders Line 5 pipeline to Ontario shut down. So they want to shut this down. It's been in service for 70 years. It's never leaked. They were twinning it and then covering it. It goes underneath Lake, I think Michigan and maybe Erie. I'm not sure for sure if it goes through both or underneath both. And there's no U.S. termination points. It's just a Canadian to Canadian pipeline. And yet they want to shut it down. It seems like there might be a lot of consequences to this. And to give you kind of an overview of the consequences, Battaglia says gas prices will skyrocket. Anything delivered using gas will increase dramatically. Many won't be able to afford gas for recreation, travel and tourism reductions. And she says, what else? I mean, yeah, any of those things sounds bad.
What else? Yeah, what do you mean what else? That sounds like more than enough. Okay, so just to clarify for our viewers, like this goes through American soil, but it goes Canada to Canada, like the pipeline itself.
The termination points, it starts in Calgary, and then I think Calgary or Alberta, and then it terminates in Ontario.
Does it make a stop in the States? Like, does it deliver any oil to the States?
No, it's just going underneath the lake there, the Great Lake.
And so the Michigan governor is the one who has the authority to shut it down.
No, but there was a ruling since Biden got in. This whole thing had been tied up, and the Michigan governor wanted to have the pipeline shut down, but then the Enbridge, who runs the pipeline, said you don't have the jurisdiction to do that. They went to court to see if they had the jurisdiction, and the court case basically came back bad for us because she does have the jurisdiction, or Buttigieg, who's the transportation cabinet member, I guess, for Biden, is in support of shutting it down. And it's all political. It's all totally political. This is never like ruptured or anything to that effect. And they were repairing it. They were twinning it. They were expanding it. So it is old. That's certainly true. But that's kind of the short version of it.
Yeah. I mean, here it says in the article, like over 500,000 barrels of oil a day.
Oh,
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, with regards,
it seems like a lot to be shutting down.
Yeah. With regards to impacts,
that's a lot. That's a lot of like. How do you say this? Trucks and trains that would be otherwise carrying that oil.
Yeah, I don't know.
Burning oil to move that oil.
I don't know that we have the train capacity to move that oil. I don't know that we'd be able to do that because we can't move. We can't move already what has to move by rail to BC, right, through Alberta.
Sure.
So
no,
there's no backup.
I'm saying, like, there's still going to be the demand, so it's still got to move there somehow.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more trucks on the road, or there's going to be a lot more on the rails, or what have you.
Yeah, to give you an idea of the impact of this as well, 50% of the gas supplied, or the gas used in Ontario is supplied by this pipeline. 50% of the gas used in Quebec is supplied by the pipeline. A whole bunch of heating for homes through propane is supplied by the pipeline. And 100% of the fuel, the air fuel for Pearson International Airport is supplied by the pipeline. So not only would Pearson be shut down, but we would be in a situation where trucks are not able to get gasoline in an appropriate way. And not just Ontario, like it's like it's a massive, massive impact. It's not good. Not good at all.
Right. And then Trudeau's going to show up and be like, we need more of you to ride your bike because that's how we're going to get around this problem of not having oil anymore. Oil is a thing of the past, only for super rich elite and good looking elite like myself.
Yeah, who need to fly into Tofino to go surfing. I'm imagining trucks being moved by teams of 8 to 12 Toronto cyclists, right, on the Gardner.
Yeah,
latched
that's
up
what we need.
like reindeer, right?
That's what we need. Do you have a road bike? Do you have a good road bike? Yeah. You're gonna move this oil for us.
We need to get these bananas to Mississauga this afternoon. Let's go, guys. Go.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, guys or gals, right? I don't want to discriminate. So I don't know what's going to happen. It could end up in litigation for a long time. It could be a situation where there is no resolution. It's just tied up in legal nonsense and court battles for years. Or it could be super quick and we could be in a disaster with no plan B. And the people who are currently in charge taking care of that disaster too. Can you wait? Can you wait to see what they do with it?
What's certainly frustrating is the fact that, like you said, it's very political. It's not leaking. It works just fine. They're maintaining it. So what's the problem? And then, of course, the environmentalists will say, well, the fact that it's oil and natural gas. And it's like, okay, so you don't care about the way that we live our life then, or you just want things to get more like these green environmentalists, like it bothers me how little like gratitude I guess they have, or little kind of like awareness they have of how our society functions heavily on oil and natural gas.
Yeah, well, without the propane, I mean, people literally freeze in the dark. Like I'm not trying to overstate it.
And it's like, hey, environmentalists, like, how do you think those soybeans got to you? Like, how do you think agriculture works?
Yeah, Beyond Meat is not just like, it doesn't pop out of nature like meat does.
Yeah. But,
hey, there's meat running by.
Like in terms of people who use a lot of natural gas and oil, though, it's like, a lot of farmers, like constantly, like that's like their main thing. Yeah,
sure. And the thing is, with no plan B, it's difficult to believe that, that they want to fix this problem. But that's similar with all the problems. It seems like I've been making this comparison on my show as well, but it seems like they are more interested in running upstairs during the flood that's threatening the basement, in running upstairs and saving the curtains, right? We got to get those curtains out of the house to make sure that they don't get wet. It's very important. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time like that? You're wasting your time doing something that's totally unnecessary. And we've got this looming crisis. It's not 100 years away. It's right now. Threatening the way we live, and everybody's like, oh well,
Well, yeah, or even more, it's like, Justin Trudeau's upstairs about to hop onto the helicopter to safety. Well, he's like, this is all your fault, you guys, but don't do anything to stop it. Okay, we can't do anything. Just let the water rise. Everything's gonna be fine. And then he just leaves on the helicopter
with the curtains.
Thanks, man.
He would blame Stephen Harper. Let's not be let's be real.
Well, it's his fault. It's Stephen Harper's fault.
He left.
These conservatives are so divisive. These conservatives are less than human scum. They're so mean and divisive. I hate them all, and you should hate them too. They're so divisive. Okay, Justin.
Yeah. It's all Stephen Harper's fault. It's all Stephen Harper's fault. Moving into, this is a kind of a yin and a yang story. In Calgary, in Alberta, I don't know if it's Calgary, in Alberta, Grace Life Church is closed. Their pastor on trial today, actually. Sheila Gunn Reid is tweeting out the trial live as it happens. I find it very interesting. So thanks to Sheila for doing that. That's wonderful work. Churches are being closed while Walmarts are being open. And people are protesting in things like rodeos, and we'll get to the rodeo in just a minute. But I think that this is, when we see what's happening across Canada to other places there, we should take note because it's coming here. I said that with the essential items only in Manitoba. Yep. I said that with the restrictions in Australia coming to Canada and then happening all across Canada, right? So there was all sorts of stuff. And so now we're seeing the same church closing behavior in Ontario as well. And here is some defiant behavior. So happening now, Harvest Bible Church in Windsor defying provincial health orders, dozens seen entering the building, many without masks. Parking lot is full of vehicles and there's lots of people, nobody wearing masks, lining up ready to go into their church and worship in the way that they see fit. And I think it is absolutely incredible that we're in a situation where this is seen as bad, right? Bad people aren't allowed to do this. Wow.
This one guy's got a mask on.
Yeah, there's one guy
at the door, but I mean, man, it really sucks because this was something that existed before COVID. Like, watching the news doesn't really give you a good representation of what's going on in the world, and like especially now that is the case, and someone who watches the regular news would never know that there's people who are continuing on going to church service and seemingly, there's not these massive outbreaks and, all this people dying left, right, and center. Yeah. But that's what people are being led to believe. We're being led to believe that this church is actually like this total toxic wasteland. And the irony, of course, is that they're not wearing a mask, as if like a mask would make a huge difference, and like packing themselves into Costco with masks on is somehow like different
or better.
But it's it just sucks that we live in a separate world where we see these things going on and seeing them for what they are, and everyone else is like, oh no, a bunch of villains went to a church one time, they didn't have masks on. The horror.
Yeah, well, and I mean, listening to the rhetoric as well. I mean, here's a good example of the rhetoric. So here's the medical officer, the health minister of Alberta. And he says, like so many Albertans, I'm deeply frustrated with the rodeo held this weekend near Bowden in violation of COVID health restrictions that are in place. The event doesn't reflect our province's amazing rodeo industry. Now, I went off on my show about this as well. But I think that fundamentally, like treating people as if what they're doing is a crime is not going to turn the public's opinion on this. Like showing the data that backs up the need for this stuff would, but they haven't done that. And so I think that it's really interesting that they're using the same tactics to paint people who are going to church and people who are going to rodeos as malcontents, ne'er-do-wells, people who should be, canceled, or people who should be
underlings. They are the lesser class. They are the lesser type of Canadian.
Yeah.
Less than. We're not divisive though. These politicians aren't divisive at all. What I find kind of ironic about this statement is like this doesn't reflect our province's amazing rodeo industry. People are organizing to do their own rodeo. Yeah. What do you mean? This is very reflective of people wanting to do rodeo, even if there is these health restrictions. Yeah. Like this is like a huge beaming pride moment of how much we love the rodeo. What are you talking about, man?
Exactly.
This doesn't reflect our rodeo industry.
Yeah. And it's not
like the opposite.
Right. Exactly. And it's not like rodeo it serves a purpose, but keeping those animals alive. You're hoping to win prize money. You're hoping to win contracts, right? Like if you're in the rodeo and you're studding your bull or something like that, right? Like there's a reason for this. It's not like you're just doing it because you want to have a rodeo, because a rodeo is this like one frame or one dimensional depiction that you've seen on TV. Like this is a real thing that has real dollars behind it, and the fact that the health minister in Alberta doesn't understand this enough to poke his base in the eye like this is just incredible, right? Like it's just wild. So
I mean, the lockdowns need to end because the repercussions of lockdowns are becoming worse than the virus. And there's already like statistics that are coming out showing this, but it's becoming evident in our daily lives. And it's like, something needs to change here. Something needs to move, and people are naturally doing that themselves. And people are, the virus, it's going to kill us. And it's like, the virus is going to kill us. Things are going to kill us. Life's going to kill us. Yeah. And it sucks. It's too bad. It's like, that's just the way it is. It's, but like people need to go outside and enjoy themselves. Mm-hmm. And, it's too bad because like this is the obvious thing that needs to happen in some capacity. But we have every single government official, every single public official, health official saying no, not at all. That no, like no nuance whatsoever. Like no sort of like human sympathy whatsoever. Like there's the fact that there isn't any gray area, that there isn't any sort of maybe you should go outside, or maybe you should be getting vitamin D. Maybe you should focus on like the basics of health, and realizing that, spilling the beans maybe to the Canadian public of like, it turns out old people have always died before 2019. That was always a thing. We're going to expose it to you now. This wasn't the first time that this happened.
But it goes back to the lie of the whole thing. Like it goes back to if they admitted how wrong they were, people wouldn't. I mean, people aren't going to trust people anyway. But like, there's no opposition. It goes back to there's nobody. Like Andrea Horvath in Ontario is saying Doug Ford is incompetent because he has not gone far enough with the lockdowns. It's not like there's another opposition party that's saying these lockdowns are bad and here's the data that says they're bad. And like there's no well thought out counter to this insane policy that we've never used. We've never used this before. And it's like, this is now unquestionably the only way to deal with human illness across our province. It's lock you down until some people die of cancer, and then we'll get back to you next year. Like, don't ask about it because that's uncomfortable. And we might call you yokels, or we might talk about a rodeo industry, right? Like,
yeah. And I mean, to quote Reagan, people have probably seen this quote already, but it's like, one of the most terrifying things is when a government can say like, I'm here to help. You're
not here to help.
Like that's really proven to be the case.
I've been thinking about something. I'm wanting to do like a concert series, like a park concert series, like 7 to 9 o'clock or something like that through weekends somewhere. And I thought that it would be a fun idea, like just getting a guitar. I don't know if it would go over well or not. You know what I mean? Or if you'd be like dinged for organizing an event, or if you'd just be like, hey man, like your guitar's kind of annoying in the front there, like get out. Like
I think that I don't know what your skills like or what your pipes are like, your singing pipes are like, but I think
like an angel.
If it's a good show, if it's a good entertaining like singing, like no offense, I don't know, I've never seen you play before, but
buddy, I'm great. I'm good. I'm
okay.
really good. Yeah. I've been paid for bar gigs before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
for real, good.
I have a whole setup. I have a whole rig. Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm more talking. I'm less talking about me. Like I'm not really talking about me per se. Like as doing a person. I'm saying a competent musician, and I am a competent musician. I could put on a good show. But I'm saying like I think that an exercise in like returning some normalcy to the world. And I've just been thinking like, should I do this, or should I just kind of like put up flyers, or should I just show up with a guitar? But I think as a step to trying to return some normalcy to the world is having like a thing you can look forward to. I always loved. When I was younger, I would go to a bar on Monday nights, and the musician there was great, and he did the songs that I really liked, and it was a fun night, right? So like, if you get something like that going, like that's kind of fun. So I could potentially do that, and it'll be kind of fun, and like it's fun for the musician as well, right? And it might be.
Oh, for sure.
It might be.
I know some musicians, and they're like really missing.
Yeah,
the gigging and like the live shows and everything, and the energy and like the endorphins you get from that.
Yeah,
and I think for sure, I think in general, we need to uplift the human spirit because it's being trampled right now. It's being spat on. It's it's really bad. There's like you said, nothing to look forward to. It's just doom and gloom and cases and all this crap.
Yeah.
And something as simple as just like listening to music. I think music is like one of those things that can really like speak to the human soul.
Yeah. Well, and
no matter who you are,
and take you somewhere. And I like Joel Plaskett, and have you heard of Joel Plaskett? Do you know who Joel is? No.
Do I?
Yeah, I'll have to send you some Joel. He's an East Coast guy. He's a Nova Scotia guy. But anyway, I like Joel Plaskett. I do a lot of his songs. But I think that you can get lost in having a drink and a conversation with some friends when there's somebody who you can just be like, this is good enough to be good, and like it's songs that I like, and songs that I can sing along with when there's a lull in the conversation, you know, and like I remember when, or this song jogs my memory, bar songs, fun songs, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I miss the opportunity, because my brother and I used to go to, you know, have a drink on a Friday, or it used to be Friday and Saturday, and then I got old. So now then it was Friday, and now it's like nothing, but it was nothing before COVID anyway. But I like the idea of people having an option to go somewhere, and even if it's in a park, and just have some relaxing time with other people who are enjoying a similar experience all together, because it's the togetherness that's been smashed. It's the communal experience of humanity that's been smashed, and they don't want you singing in church, and they don't want you having a rodeo. And I'm like,
they don't want you talking to one another. They don't want you talking. They don't want you interacting. Like, God forbid you exchange information, anecdotes, because like once that starts happening,
yeah,
you know, people
and you say,
just start being,
you say, this is weird. Good thing we're outside and we're not wearing masks. But that's it. I want to stand up like the rodeo, and like the protest, but not. I don't want it to be a hey ho ho, Mayor Quimby's got to go. That's not the protest I want. I want a protest to be fun. Like, we're sitting here and we're having a drink, and you know what, man, we're outside, and get lost. Like,
that's a good point, because we're at the point where going to the park and playing guitar, it's like that's like this radical, political, rebellious act, and it's gonna say, and if you do this, by the way, it's gonna say something like, why playing acoustic guitar in a park upholds white supremacy. Like, that's going to be the headline from
oh my goodness, you're totally,
oh
my goodness, you're so right. If I didn't think that it would be a terrible, awful idea to have like a double header, you and me, the white supremacy tour, this white supremacy park tour, it would be like a Flights of the Conchords. But I'm not that funny. I'm not that funny. You'd be
there's something to that, though, getting ahead of the smears and being like, we're the white supremes, the white supremes.
Oh my goodness. This is a terrible. This is like the worst way to finish a show. YouTube is going to take this down so bad. I think it would be funny though, and like I think that the smears that we would endure, and I don't necessarily think we should name it that for a tour. I think that people would misconstrue that far too much.
They wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get
the joke.
People who are like, you know, some of our people would get it. But the average person would be like, what the hell? I'm not going to this.
My mom would be like, I'm going to stay home from the park on this one, Mark.
Yeah, exactly.
Understandable, Mom. But no, I think that a return to normalcy, a demand to normalcy, having something fun like that, and doing it like in a pseudo normal way, like having a time that the guitarist is going to be there, not just showing up and busking, because that's like, there's a discernible difference between busking and like putting on a show. You put on a show, you have like a set list, and you have an idea of kind of the story you want to tell for the night. I do anyway. I mean, I think there's a big difference.
I would say there is benefits to kind of being spontaneous, though, especially these days, because it is like, you know, you can plan it, of course, but there's something about it being more spontaneous that's that I think is more charming. Yeah. Because if it's very produced and it's very kind of like organized, then it kind of loses that charm a little bit. But if you can make it perceived to be this natural thing, then that's great. But I was going to say, in general, people just need to, like, fundamentals, get out of your house, get away from the video games, get away from your phone, like, it's very simple. Like, people definitely absolutely need that. And I know plenty of people who are taking advantage. Like, I'm sure lots of people are going to be camping this summer, but like, I don't know, not everyone is so lucky. It's not easy to kind of, people take the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And these days, the path of least resistance is collecting CERB, ordering Uber Eats, not leaving your house, and just and like, we need to fight that. We need to like fight against our that path of least resistance. And when there's nothing to do, when there's nothing to go outside for, it's like, we need to really get creative and find excuses to get outside.
Yeah, well, and there's nothing like a cold beer on a warm summer evening on a patio with a passable guitarist and an okay vocalist, right? Nothing like that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. I think we'll call it there. I've got. Oh man, it's after 3:00. I'm in trouble. I'm not that. But I think that that's a good place to break it off. Where can they find you?
Can I say one more point I wanted to say is when the cops do show up, because they probably will at this point, the COVID bylaw officers, it really does paint like a 1960s-esque picture where it's like, the police, really? They're dragging off like this hippie with the guitar? Like, come on.
I mean, I don't have dreadlocks. Would you be in dreadlocks?
No, but like, the optics of like dragging some guy off who's playing guitar, like that really has like it reminds people of almost like the hippie movement in like who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. I don't know. Yeah. I'm talking about speaking to like normies, like showing them this is what's happening.
Could you make a case for busking being essential? Could you make a case for a little show being essential? I don't know. Maybe. You
can make a case for anything. If you can make a case for Justin Trudeau being essential, you can absolutely do that.
I would tell him to give me a fine. I'd be like, give me a fine and have a seat, officer. We've got an extra beer for you.
Oh, see that's a wholesome moment.
That's right.
There.
You gotta. That's how you make the crowd like you.
That's like a Kendall Jenner moment, like that Pepsi commercial or whatever.
I saw Caitlyn Jenner being interviewed, and for the first, I was like, anyway, I'm gonna stay away from that.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah,
10-foot pole, man. We'll stay away from that. 10-foot pole. Where can they find you, man?
Find me on my YouTube, Greg Wycliffe. There's another internet censorship bill coming up. I've been doing some videos about it. If you want to go check that out, then go check that out. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Anytime, man. Awesome. It's always good to chat and catch up with you. You can find me at CanadaPoly.com, and you can look at my scratch pad, all the stuff I'm working on at CanadaReport.co. You can see our back catalog on SpeakingMoistly.co, and I think that's about it. We'll have the Prime Minister play us out. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back again next week because that's what we do, because there's nothing else to do. And if we do a summer park, series, we'll let you know when and where and
singing moistly.
Ooh, singing moistly.
Good. No,
I love it. I love it. I think that's a good idea. Okay,
it sounds horrible. I wouldn't go to that.
We won't sing masked singers. No, that's terrible. We won't wear them.
No,
I won't wear them. Okay, carry on. See you next week.
Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Oh, what a terrible image.